Honored to have my favorite basketball player of all time, Mr. Larry Bird. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I grew up in the Boston Garden. So you were,
I did too.
I know. So I think I wrote once that out of the 25 greatest moments of my life, I think you're involved in like 7 of them. 7 or 8, I'm not sure. I think that Bird steals the ball might be in the top 5.
You need to get a better life.
Let's start with Super Bowl week. Everyone's talking about Peyton Manning, where's he going, all this stuff. You know, back in the day, there was, I think like 89 or 90, you were upset with your contract. There was a chance you might not stay with the Celtics. Everybody in Boston was freaking out that you might leave. When you look at Manning might actually leave the Colts, I mean, how important was it to you that you stayed in Boston your whole career?
Very important. And I don't remember what year that was, but Red knew I wasn't going anywhere.
Right, but you had to do the whole dance.
But no, well, it really wasn't that. It was just that they wanted to do something in the summer, and they they didn't get it done, and Red was out of it. I was dealing with somebody else. And what they were telling me is this wasn't the truth.
Yeah.
And it sort of upset me, but I wasn't going anywhere. I would never left Boston unless they traded me. I like to see guys come in, especially the elite players, and stay in one place. I think it's very important for this city because we don't have a lot of great ones come through here. And Peyton Manning by far is the greatest athlete ever come through this city. And if he's healthy, you know, hopefully he stays and finishes out his career. But I don't know his medical, but he's been fantastic. I mean, he'll go down in history as one of the greatest quarterbacks, and he's been great in the community. He's got his name on a hospital, and it's just fantastic. And I hope he's able to stay healthy and finish his career here.
Well, like, I'm looking at it from my vantage point. Like, all right, so I'm in Boston in the early '90s. You're battling your back issues. Let's say the Celtics ended up with the #1 pick that year, and it's Derek Coleman, and everybody's like, we should pick Coleman, and then we'll trade Bird. Like, the Celtic fans never would have wanted that, I feel like. And do you feel like the Colts fans actually want Manning to get traded? Like, or it seems like they want him to stay, right?
Well, you know, after last year, everything sort of blew up.
Yeah.
I'd say really if it came down to it, probably 80% would like to see him come back.
Yeah.
And there's always a few that like to see it move on and start all over, but they get spoiled. Fans get spoiled, and if things don't go well next year, if he's not here, then they turn and start wanting Peyton back. But it's too late. But if you have a elite athlete come through, and especially in a small market, you got to hold on to them players. They're not born every day.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hit and miss.
In Boston, there was a big thing about Danny Ainge was talking about, I might have to make a trade here. I might have to get rid of Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen, all 3 of them. And he mentioned how in the late 80s with the Celtics, that Red had told him he had a top possible trade for you and a possible trade for McHale. And they ultimately decided to keep all you guys and kind of ride it out. And Ainge thinks that was a mistake. If you were somehow the Celtics GM in the late 80s, what would you have done?
I would have kept him.
Would have kept him.
The one thing about Red was loyalty. And that's why I never wanted to leave there, because I always knew he had my back.
Yeah.
He cared for me. He wanted me to do well. Obviously, he wanted me to play at a high level. I was with Danny and Red and McHale the day we were talking about that. The one thing that Danny threw in there was players' names. And the whole time I was in Boston, I never heard Red mention any other players on other teams.
Right.
I heard him talking about, you know, draft picks. But I never heard him about, well, Larry, I can trade you for this, this, and this. He just never done that. But
I don't think you were on the table, though.
No, but Danny did tell Red he should trade us right now because we don't have much left in the tank.
Well, the one trade that actually kind of made sense, but I'm glad the Celtics didn't do it, was I know Dallas offered Perkins and Schrempf for McHale because they were making a run. It was the year you were hurt. In 88, 89, you played like only 6 games.
Right.
You were recovering. And I think Dallas did make that offer. And it's a pretty interesting trade. Like, you think like the careers that Perkins and Schrempf had, they would have been the Celtics for, you know, the next decade.
Well, I coached Sam, so I know how good he was.
Right,
Even at the end of his career, he was a gamer. But you know what? If you really look at it, Red coached many great players. He had great teams, and there's just too much loyalty there.
Yeah.
And you know, the way he did things, he felt he could rebuild it back in a short period of time. But Kevin McHale's don't come around very often.
True.
And Robert Parrish But you know, if you want to hold on for 15 years and play 2 minutes a game is one thing. But in 1987, Kevin played through a broken foot.
Right.
And it's actually broken, and he tried to play, and he's still paying for it. So we don't find them type of guys anymore. Very few of them out there, probably. But Kevin gave his heart and soul to the Celtics, and Red knew that.
A lot of people don't remember that about the McHale broken foot. What's interesting to me is he would do it again, because his attitude was, we were so close that year, and it really came down to one or two plays, and I never would have been able to live with myself knowing that I wasn't out there, and yet he was never the same.
Well, I can
after
remember that in the finals, and I seen the X-rays. There was a crack in there.
Yeah.
And as the season was over, it just grew. It got bigger. And
Mahorn was stepping on it.
Sure, but Kevin was right. If you get a chance for that last goal and that last couple games you need, you got to play if you can.
Right.
Because you might not never get there again.
That was, I think, the one of the lost titles from that era.
Right.
I think '82. I still feel like, which team that never gets mentioned, but Tiny separated his shoulder in the Sixers series. But that was actually the best Celtics team of your early part of your career, I felt like.
Yeah, we had 2 7-game series. I was down 3-1 against Philly and came back both times.
Yeah.
And the last time they beat us in the 7th game in Boston. So
I was there.
We always had good teams.
Yeah.
And it always seems like injuries got in our way, which it does for a lot of teams. But in '87, Irvin always tells me that's their best team. Well, we had a lot of injuries that year. I would like to play them heads up with Walton and the team we had in '86, because '86 was definitely our best team.
You know what? I had dinner with him this summer, and he refuses to acknowledge all the injuries from that '87 team, because he says how, oh yeah, our '87 team was better than your '86 team. And I was like, but you guys didn't show up for the '86 finals. We were waiting for you, and you guys decided to just bow out against Houston. He's like, that's not true, but I still think that '86 team was the best of all those mid-'80s teams. He disagrees.
There's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, with Bill Walton coming in as your backup, Scotty Wedman, Jerry Sitchkin, we were loaded.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Jerry shot like 55% from the field that year. I mean, he had open shots.
Yep.
Exactly what we needed off the bench. Then Scotty played behind me, and it was just a stacked team.
And the other thing with that team, Wedman missed most of the playoffs, which, when people talk about who was the greatest team ever, I say, well, they lost 2 games in the finals to the Rockets. Well, first of all, it shouldn't have lost game 3. That was the one, lose by 2 in Houston. But it was it was kind of a giveaway. I feel like that was a giveaway game.
Yeah. Well, that was the inadvertent whistle, wasn't it?
Yes. You remember that one. Is it true that you can see if we had a game on right now from some game in the '80s, a playoff game, you would know what play it was?
I'm not as good. I don't watch it that much, but I know 10 years ago, you could start watching, I can tell you what was going to happen. But that's sort of
play-by-play was going to happen?
I might miss 1 or 2 here and there, but I can catch up with it. But I haven't done it for so long, I don't know. I was with somebody the other day, and they had a game on, and I was looking, and I said, I barely remember that one.
Oh, really?
The Pistons, because usually the Pistons I put over here and never pay no attention to them anyway.
Right. The '87, that was when Parrish had a sprained ankle. I think Danny had a sprained ankle.
I was the healthiest one on the team.
You were the only healthy one.
So
but you were playing 43 minutes a game, though.
No, that's all right.
And then
Walt
was out.
For 48.
True. No Len Bias that year either, which nobody ever factors in when they talk about that era.
Yeah.
If Len Bias sticks around, how much longer do you play, and how much healthier are you?
I would have left in '88.
What do you mean?
I would have retired in '88.
That's would have been it?
Yeah.
How come?
Because I started having the ankle problems, and they were going to have to detach my Achilles to get these spurs out. I knew I was going to miss the whole year. If he was there, I would have just shut it down right there.
Really?
Yeah.
How old would you have been, 32?
Yeah, 32, I think.
You walked away from all that cash?
I walked away from it anyway.
That's true. Well, I thought '87 put the biggest toll on your body.
The one thing that people don't understand is, if you look at our teams, 4 years in a row we went to the finals.
Yep.
And playoff basketball is completely different. I played 2 years of playoff basketball, but our bodies don't have time to recover when we had injuries. So when you go 2.5 months and you start again, you feel better, but you're not recovered health-wise. And that just kept adding on. Kobe is one of the toughest human beings I've ever seen, because I know what he's been through, and he's played a hell of a lot more minutes than me.
Yeah.
And he just finally figured out, hey, I'm going to get hurt. I'm just going to have to play through it. And that's the mentality of a great player.
And your era was a little different because the travel was a little different. You didn't have these charters. Did you have a charter in the mid-'80s? No.
No, we had it the last 2 years I was there. It started in '90.
And you had, like in the Pistons series in '87, we're up 2-0. I say we like I was on the team. We're up 2-0.
Everybody in Boston was on that team.
Yeah, we were. Plus, we hated that Pistons team. Goes to Detroit Saturday, Sunday, back to back. And then you get in the fight with Lambeer in Game 4. All of a sudden, it's 2-2 in like 24 hours. But they don't do those back-to-back playoff games anymore, things like that.
No, we probably played at night, then in the afternoon the next day.
Yeah.
I think it was a low-scoring game, the second game, like 80-78 or something.
Yeah.
But, you just keep playing. I mean, that's your job.
I still think, though, if Bias is fine and whatever, he's on that team, you and McHale now, like McHale has a hurt foot. Now they're like, all right, Kevin, take your time. You can.
Sure.
We got Len Bias,
Sure.
and you're not playing 43 minutes a game
Right.
in May and June and stuff like that. Maybe you play until.
Yeah.
you're 40.
I played against Len Bias when he was a sophomore in college, and he was incredible. See, Red used to bring all
How'd
these.
you? Oh, like a college all-star team?
No,
Yeah.
Red used to bring these guys into his camp, all the top players around the country, in to work his camp. And
Yeah.
at night we play. I come out there and we play.
Yeah.
I work his camp a little bit and mess around with him. Then at night we play. But he had Brad Daugherty and Lenny Bias. They don't do that anymore. Nobody can do that anymore.
Yeah.
But he got to see all these guys up close. But I do know if somebody else took Len Bias number one, he was taking Brad Daugherty. I think that was Red's really number one guy. He loved Bias, but he couldn't pass up on a skilled big man.
And Daugherty was fantastic.
Fantastic.
And he was another guy that
he would have
got
fit
cut
in
short.
great with any team, but he would have done well with us.
I just remember watching all those guys that year and thinking, meanwhile, it's the best Celtic team of all time playing at that moment, and then we have this pick. And it was like, my God, like, Celtics beat the Rockets in the finals. The draft's like 10 days away,
Right.
and we're adding the second pick in the draft, and it just seemed like, all right, we didn't win like
Yeah, I
7
remember
straight titles.
I remember the night they traded Henderson. We're in the layup line. They took him out of the layup line. We go back to the hotel. He's sitting in the bar. We all go up there and, hey, sorry, Henny, and all that. He's, oh, well, I'll get a chance to play all the time. Well, he's playing quite a bit for us.
Yeah.
Then when they had a bad year, we get the second pick in the draft. Now, I remember when they started doing all the draft, not
envelopes.
the draft, but the envelopes and all that. Red's sitting there looking, no emotion, and it got down to them and Cleveland, I think.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, well, Red's going to get the number one pick. That's just how much faith you had in the guy.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure, I didn't know who he was going to take because I never asked him, but I really believe he would have took Brad Daugherty.
I actually agree with you, because it was just, when you think about Daugherty, Walton, Parrish, and McHale,
They would have took him.
it would have been embarrassing.
I mean, just because that was in '86, he just knows that Bill might go out anytime, getting a little bit older, and bring another big man in there that's very skilled. So, but Lenny was one heck of a player, and Red might have been thinking, bring Lenny in here, and I want to play Larry so many minutes too. But
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, when you think about the '80s and just luck and all the different variables, like, take Worthy off the Lakers from day one. They don't win 5 titles, I'm pretty sure. And I think that was the guy that would have extended everybody else's career. What else, when you think about what ifs from the '80s, like the lost title in '82, '87, the team kind of broke down as it went along. Is there another
well,
title?
I really felt that when we won our first championship, I told our team, I said, we got to win at least 4 or 5 of these things, or we didn't do our job.
Yeah.
Because I always thought that we left them on the table.
Yeah.
And some of us, you hate to blame injuries, but like in '87, there was just so many guys hurt. And I know Lakers had guys probably banged up too, but if that was their best team, I would like to play them healthy.
Basically, that Game 4 of the '87 finals came down to the rebound gets screwed up out of bounds, which nobody remembers.
Right,
The 2 guys in
Kevin.
the rebound, they knock it out of bounds. Magic makes the skyhook, which McHale blocks if his foot's
Yeah.
not broken. He just missed it.
Well,
And
we were
then
down, and I hit a 3, put us
You hit
up,
the
I think,
3.
1 or 2, then they missed a free throw.
Yeah, Kareem.
And they get it out of bounds. And if Kevin's going to get fouled if he just grabs a rebound.
Right. And then you missed the final 3, which I was sitting midcourt. You were like here when you shot it, and the ball was, and I had a dead, and I thought it was in.
I did too.
And you missed like,
It went
was
all
like
the way
a
down
sliver.
in and popped out.
Just
but
missed it.
When I let it
You
go,
thought it was going in.
Yeah, I did. I was surprised it didn't go in because I got an open look. There's 2 seconds on the clock, and I made a move up, and I went, which we've used before with 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And they lead me into the shot. and a perfect pass. And when I let it go, I just thought, well, that's it.
Right in front of the Laker bench too.
And I got a shot off that I would have lived with. And a lot of people say, well, I got a good shot off and missed. I can live with that. But that thing should have went in.
And that probably would have, I think the roof would have collapsed.
Well,
I think that would have been it. That would have been a riot.
That's like in '84, we lose our first game at home. Game 2, Henderson steals the ball. Game 3, they blow us out. We're going, what the heck?
Yeah.
Game 4, we just got to start getting tougher.
Yeah.
And the whole series changed that day. We put a lot of pressure on them. And we always felt that if we played the Lakers, we could always do something to irritate the heck out of them. And if you get them thinking about if they're going to get hit or if somebody's saying something, it takes them off their game because they like to get it out, run, and just keep pushing, get in their flow. You got to take them out of that flow.
Your era, it was so much more physical, and stuff was just settled on the court, and it was fine. And now it's like if somebody stares at somebody too long, it's a tech. It's a double tech. Oh, you touched me. Like even you had that thing with Danny Granger and Kevin Love the other night. That was, pretty stupid. It's like the refs have to review it for 10 minutes. Do you think this stuff's just dumb?
Well, they need to put a stop to a lot of it because in the 80s when I played, there was a lot of cheap shots. If you go back and watch the Pistons playing against Chicago, I mean, Michael and Scotty were getting pounded. And a lot of it happened after the whistle. Like you're going in and you get fouled and the guy goes ahead and tries to, that's a free foul. I remember when I first came to the league, there's no layup rule.
Yep.
But guys were getting hurt, and it takes a toll on your body. They had to clean it up some, but they've taken it too far, especially with the flagrant fouls and stuff.
You got in a couple scraps back in the day. You weren't afraid to throw the knuckles around.
Didn't hit anybody, but I like to throw them.
Hey, you beat up Alan Bristow.
I don't know if I beat him up.
Well, you got a couple good ones, man. There was the preseason game, which was a classic, which you against Ivoroni. And then it was like Maxwell against Moses. Then Red came out of the stands. Like, those were the days.
Why would they have us playing the 76ers in exhibition 3 times?
For money, probably, right?
For fighting. It happened every time. Every time. I heard Charles Barkley a couple of years ago. So when he first came to the league, they're playing these exhibition games, and guys were loosey-goose, and he thought that's how it was. He said, all of a sudden we played the Celtics. Walked in the locker room, I was talking to everybody, goes, hey, man, calm down. He said it was a real game.
Yeah.
And sure enough, something happened.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was.
It's funny, I went to the Clippers-Lakers preseason game this year, and it reminded me a little bit of those Sixers-Celtic games where it was like, it was not a preseason game.
Right.
These guys were like, they wanted to beat each other. Yeah. And I've been to 3 of those games so far. There's real animosity. It's kind of fun. Like, I miss those days of, I don't like the stuff with the guys hugging before the games and all that stuff. I wish it was the old days were back.
This is your job. And a lot of people depend on whether you win or lose. We got this building, we got all these workers, they got to feed their families.
Yeah.
And you go out there and mess around and you don't put a full effort into it every night. Not only does your team suffer, but everybody suffers from that.
Right.
So if you're winning, everybody's happier.
You left the bad blood on the court for the most part, but not with Lambier. You never really ever liked Lambier in any social situation.
No.
Yeah.
And it's because he was a dirty player.
Right.
Now, he had to do what he had to do. I understand that. But you take, like Ricky Mahorn, he'd hit you and all that, but he'd hit you, you know you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
But he didn't try to maim you.
Right.
Bill tried to hurt you.
Right.
And, he was one of them guys, you shoot a jumper, he'd try to slide his foot underneath your ankle so you twist your ankle. And that's why Parrish
Did he really used to do that?
If you watch any of our old games, Parrish was always twisting his ankle against the Pistons. So one time I shot a jumper and Lambert did it to me and I stepped on his foot, but I stepped on a high, didn't twist my ankle. I don't know, a quarter or two later, he was shooting that jumper. I slid mine on there. That's the last time he ever did it.
Really?
Yeah. But he was, he had to play the way he had to play, and we all understood that. But if you carry it too far, you carry it over the line, you got to protect yourself.
I was at the game when the famous game where you stole the ball, but in the second quarter, and the crowd just had so much hatred for Lambier for that game. I've never been in any sort of a sporting event where the crowd hated a player that much. And I still am convinced to this day that the crowd convinced Parrish to punch him in the second quarter.
Oh, no question.
Because you watch the replay and it was like barely he did anything.
It could have happened 2 plays before.
You're right. But, it was just the crowd wanted it to happen.
They were on him pretty hard, but I never seen the opposing fans going to get on anyone like I seen him get on Ralph Sampson.
That was the other one I was going to mention.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And this poor kid, they might as well just took him home because I think he ended up with 2 points and 2 rebounds. And I think the game before they had like 24 and 22.
Yeah.
I mean, they took him completely out of the game. And that's one thing about fans. I mean, Boston fans, I mean, I can go in the paper. You know, sometimes they get there, they just expect it. And the crowd ain't into it. I can just go in the paper and tell Bob Ryan, put it in there, I'm pissed off at the fans. And the next time you go in there, they're crazy. But you didn't have to that game. I mean, we were in the locker room, and you know, you could hear fans out there, but in '86 at Game 6, that locker room sounded like they was in the locker room. And I can remember looking at Bill Walton. Bill Walton said, "Hey, they want blood." And I said, "Yeah, they don't care whose they get. If we don't win this game, they want our blood. That's how it is here." But that was a wild game, and just the emotions were so high because we had our best team and we had to win that game.
And the crowd, I think, I was at that game. I was in the tunnel. I think everybody was there like 45 minutes before that game.
Yeah,
people were just ready.
Yeah.
And when Sampson walked out, he walked by us. You could just see he was done.
Yeah.
He was petrified.
Yeah,
And he should have been. He was like, really seemed like he was getting killed.
He's picking on Jerry Sitchton. Come
on. You used to like that, though. You used to like when the crowd got on you.
Yeah, you know, it's funny how it works. I used to get very nervous and sick, a little sick before each game. But once I stepped on the parquet, it was all over with. Now it's time to battle. And when the fans were into it, or we wasn't into it, they let us know. And it'd do the same thing if they're screaming real loud to me. You know, they don't like it. You know, they paid their money to come in here. You know, they traveled. I mean, I know people used to go down after work, get something to eat and go to the game. Not once a week, every time we played, for every game I was there. So you felt indebted to them to at least go out there and try to do something special that night and win a basketball game.
That was my favorite regular season win from the '86 team, which was my favorite team. But Atlanta, they talk trash. They're up by 20 at halftime.
Yeah, that was in
the crowd's yelling and all that stuff. Yeah. And then the team comes out in the second half, just eye of the tiger. And it's a great game.
That's
it's a
the first.
bloodbath.
K.C. Jones got on us 3 times really hard. And that halftime talk he gave is one of the best I've ever heard about having pride. You're wearing the jersey. A lot of you guys have been here for a long time, but obviously you don't know what it means to be a Celtic, you know, the whole thing. And he never screamed or never yelled, and he goes, you know, we got it in us to come back and win this game, but we have to do it. We got to dictate the second half of how we want to play.
Yeah.
And we got out there and we ended up beating them.
And then Game 5 in the playoffs that year against Atlanta, 25-0 run in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
That's the best basketball ever, right?
I mean, it's not like they were turning it over.
Right.
It's just we were in passing lanes. We were up on them. They were taking shots with pressure on them. We got every rebound. And actually, they were trying for 3/4 of that quarter. But
you called like 4 timeouts, I think.
Yeah, that run was one of the greatest runs we ever had in Boston.
I think that was the greatest team ever. But if it needed one thing, what would you have added to it? Like what type of player? Like a leaper off the bench, or like a shifty point guard, or?
Well, we got by with Jerry because he can knock down jumpers, and man, you had to have that because with the double teams, the ball rotation, I thought he was excellent for a team. I don't know. I really don't know if.
He was also an underrated defender. I always thought he did a decent job against Isaiah.
Well, Isaiah hated him because he was up on him. You know, every time he throw the ball, he's right there.
Yeah.
You know, after 20 minutes he's in there, you get a little tired of him being around.
Yeah.
And he was a tough kid, so.
One thing about that team, it was such a good passing team because of you and Walton. And, I think when you have a really good passer, sometimes it's contagious. And you take a guy like McHale, who I think if he goes to another team, he's a little bit of a black hole. I'm not sure he ever makes a pass. On those mid-'80s Celtics teams, he's actually like finding guys and stuff like that. And you can see this a little bit right now with Ricky Rubio and Kevin Love.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you've seen them.
I watch them all the time.
They have the passing gene. You can see that, right?
Yeah. Well, they've been having success because the other guys are starting to pick it up.
Right.
They'll continue to get better. If they start winning games, they'll be a tough beat because they'll have ball movement. They'll have guys moving without the ball because Ricky will find them. And then Kevin can go inside and out, and he's a willing passer. So it's contagious. There's no question about it. When I got to the Celtics earlier in my career, it took us about a year. Tiny always felt he held on the ball a little bit too long at times, but he's always surveying and see what he did. But we were a pretty good passing team, and that's why we had Chris Ford, guys willing to give up. If you had an 18-foot shot, you give it to somebody who had a 10-foot shot, and that's just the way we played.
And then when Walton showed up, I mean, it was just, for you guys, it just seemed like every game was like you were trying to do some weird thing you've never tried on a basketball court
But he,
before.
he just missed 2 games that year.
Yeah.
I can remember when Bill first came in, he had dinner with Robert and said, "Look, Robert, I'm not here to take your job. I'm just here trying to help you win a championship." So he broke the ice. So Robert, when we went right into practice, it was like we never missed a beat. And we had a good second unit to push us. And, we never hardly took a day off. When we practiced every day, KC used to do what he did with us in practice. He'd leave, then we scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to play. Bill and Jerry and them guys wanted to scrimmage because I was playing 43 minutes. Scotty, or 40, 38. Scotty wasn't getting a lot of time, but he knew the competition was there. For him to get better, we had to practice.
Did it make you sad that starting kind of with when Jordan took over the league, it became a league of clear out for this guy, clear out for that guy, and that passing went away for the most part?
Well, if you remember, they used to isolate on one side and 4 guys go on the other side.
With you, yeah.
But I thought that was bad basketball. A lot of teams were using it. But, when Michael came in, it was different because he was a scorer. He had a scoring mentality. And as he got better, they started getting better players around him. But, it never really, to me, has been the same. Hopefully Rubio can bring some of that back because he's a willing passer. He's one of the best passers I've ever seen. I mean, if you watch him, he surveys everything, and he's got that knack to get it to people within a shooting motion. Instead of reaching down, grabbing it off the floor, over here, he gets it to him in a shooting motion. So I'd say if they continue to work and do the right things and win some games, they're going to be a tough out.
I love that you're watching them. I figured you might be watching them.
Yeah, I watched, I seen Ricky play when he was 16.
Yeah.
And I thought he was a ball boy in the layup line. And at the end of the game, well, not at the end of the game, about 8-10 minutes ago, they put him in the game. He looked so young. And a scout that was with me, I go, man, can this kid play? They keep talking about how good he is. He goes, if he can bring the ball up the court against this guy that's guarding, the guy was 31. He said, he'll be fine. Not only did he bring it up and make plays, he took it. He said, he'll have problems on the defense. Well, he stole the ball twice from the guy bringing it up. He goes, this kid's going to be good. He said, you don't take the ball from them. I forget who the kid was.
Why don't you think more guys play like that? I mean, I'm sure there's ego standpoint of it's easier to score and you get more money.
Yeah, the AAU, I'm a firm believer it all starts back there.
Yeah.
The colleges are in there. It's about how many did you get, what kind of dunk did you have. If you look at our game, the mid-range games is almost gone. Just like, even Charles and them, they're always talking about dunking, I mean, Charles was a dunker, but he wasn't. He's more of a passer, power player. But everybody gets caught up in these dunks. I mean, if somebody dunked on you and you go down and hit a 3, who's ahead? I never did get that.
Right.
But I think it'll come back, but we're really missing the overall game. We're just seeing great athletes out there running and jumping.
At the same time, it's been the best era, I think, ever for point guards. I mean, you look around the league and it's like there's 7 or 8 elite guys. You have the young guys like Rubio and John Wall and people like that. And even like somebody like Darren Collison, who, maybe in a season like this is in the middle of that pack, but 8 years ago would have been one of the best 7 or 8 guys in the league. Right.
Then you look at LeBron; he can play point. True. I mean, he can start an offense and he can get them in the flow. There's just so many guys. Well, from here on, I hear there's no point guards in this draft. Yeah. Then next year they might not be. So if you got one, you better keep him.
Right. What do you think about the attention that LeBron's received the last couple of years and the scrutiny and people picking apart his game?
I think you should sit back and enjoy him.
Yeah?
Because I think he's one of the greatest to ever play our game. We all make mistakes. I did a lot of things I sort of regret. Whether he regrets it or not, I don't know. But he made some, a couple of decisions. The decision was a bad decision.
Yeah.
But as far as playing basketball, you've got to enjoy this guy. If you're a basketball fan, you've got to sit back and go, wow, how did he do that? Or I always say, boy, I wish I had his speed. Yeah. But some of the stuff that kid does out there, he's by far, Kobe was always my favorite since I got out.
I don't like that, by the way.
But LeBron James is by far our best player in this league. I don't think there's really anyone next to him. I think he's there, then you go down the list.
Which, if you could have picked any current player right now to play with for an entire season, who would you pick? Just from a fun teammate, make the team better, just all those things in play.
Well, Probably Kobe, because
Really?
the fact that he's, well, of course he wouldn't have been shooting as much as he does now.
Yeah, you would have had to
but
talk with him.
His desire to win, his dedication in the offseason to get better, and he's just tough. He's just a tough cat. But if you want to have fun like I did with Bill Walton, you play with LeBron.
Really?
It'd been probably more fun to play with LeBron, but if you want to win and win and win, it's Kobe.
When you
Not that LeBron's not a winner, it's just that
Right.
his mindset to go in every practice, every game to get better.
I wrote a 700-page book about basketball, and it was really hard to figure out how to measure different guys. Measure the eras. Like, how do you measure somebody from your era versus LeBron
Right.
James, people like that? Because the game's faster now. I mean,
Yeah.
you watch your era is not people didn't play defense on every play like they do now.
It's funny and it's hard. It's very hard to compare, but you never know. Like, I never know how good LeBron is. I remember when I came in to the league. I played a small town. I did very well, and everybody always said, "You didn't play against anybody." I went to Indiana State. Same thing. So when I came in the league, there was a lot of doubters.
Yeah.
And with my mentality, I thought, well, I'll go in there and I'll just do my best to get better. So I go out there, and we're at Marshfield, and had the Cowans and Tiny and ML Carr was new on our team. Had Roby. All these guys came down there to see how good I was, and I just sort of filled my way around. And after 3 days, I go, wonder when these guys are going to start playing hard, So. ML, we went out to eat one night, and ML Carr told me, he goes, "Man, you're going to be really good in this league." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, but you guys ain't playing." He goes, "Oh, yeah, we're playing." He said, "They're talking about it. They think you're going to be pretty good." So we got an exhibition season. Everybody, "Oh, well, exhibition." And I played pretty well. Well, when the game started, I'm always waiting for these guys to shut me down, deny me the ball. What I found out was all you got to do is shoot a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a position where you can come off a pick a little quicker. It don't have to be 100 mile an hour all the time, but it's got to be a thinking man's game. You got to think. You got to see what your plays. You know how they react. You watch the films. You know if they go under a screen or over a screen. You know if you can fade off a pick, or you come down and you go straight up, then pop out. So I always tried to put myself in a position where I could succeed with basketball. So if you watch me, very seldom did I catch the ball at 3-point line. I'd break out and try to get it 16, 17 foot. Because if I was going to run a pick and roll with Robert Parrish, and I knew they was going to step out, he could slip that pick, and all he had to do is take two steps, he's going to dunk it. So you had to think the game out. And it's the same as now. I mean, you don't see a head fake much anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys want to jump over the rim and all that. Get them in there, set them up, and drop it off. So if you got to think a man's game, I don't think it'll be that much tougher than it was back then. But I sure would like to compete against Kobe and LeBron and them guys, because that's what it's all about, playing against the best.
In your decade, the game was changing as the decade was going along. Like, you look at the guys that you were going against every night initially, Kelly Tripucka, people like that, the kind of the 6'6" small forward,
yeah,
that you always kind of had advantage. And then by the end of that decade, all of a sudden now Rodman's in there.
Yeah.
And, now you have these 6'8" athletes that you had to work a little
I
harder.
always say the taller they are, the easier you can come off a pick. Now, they might be able to get up on you to deny you ball, which Rodman did a lot.
Yeah.
Cooper get up into me. My shot's probably going to be down that game. But you had to be strong enough to just be physical with them. You play physical basketball. I used to take Cooper in the post a lot, where I run Rodman off of screens. Kelly Tripucka, you run him off double screens, or you come off screen, try to get in the lane because you can shoot over him. So it's just according to who's guarding you. It always dictated. It always went whatever the defense gave me. I tried to take advantage of that.
Are you amazed by how old people can play now? Like Steve Nash, 39, like still running around, scampering around. Kobe's
Why?
16. Kobe's 16 seasons. He's still averaging 30 a game. Like,
I mean, it's wild. I mean, I don't get it.
But I mean, a lot of it's like diet and conditioning, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's different, and a lot of core work. We didn't have that. Mine was running on the roads, playing on asphalt in the summer, and that couldn't have been good for you. But basketball's basketball, and if your body holds up, you can probably play longer. I mean, if I didn't have all the back and ankle issues, I could have strung it out a little bit, and we could still have been successful. But when it breaks down, when you have surgery on you, you're never the same, and I always understood that.
Oh, that's not a good sign for Peyton Manning then.
Well, I don't know what he's got wrong with him, but I always say that once they put that knife in you, you're never the same.
All right, last question. Give us a prediction for the Pacers this year. You feeling good?
Well, I said before the year with my owner, because I watch these guys all the time, and it all depends on what they do in the summer, how much better they get. Roy's improved every year. Last year, he sort of plateaued a little bit, but this year he's taken another level. It all depended on Paul George. Darren Collison had to have a better year. We pick up George Hill and David West. We're already better with them two. I told him we win between 34 and 38 games, and hopefully we'll win more, but that's my prediction.
Well, and you have a lot of cap space. You can potentially add one piece.
Right, and we're a franchise where we don't spend 80, 90, 100 million dollars. We got to stay around. We're at 50 million, 51 million now, and that's with Posey on, but he's still part of it. But we got to stay between, I think, around 65 million for a while. Now, we got to develop our own players. We got to draft well. So it's not like some of these teams can go out and get some players and they don't work out. If we get a player that don't work out, he's probably going to play. So that's the difference being a small market and a major market. But it's been fun because when we go in and play Chicago and we beat them, I feel good about that because I know my team's coming. They're getting an air about them where, I like. They're starting to do things like I remember when we used to do that. Like the other night, Danny got a little chippy.
Yeah.
Danny's a tough kid, and he's not a dirty player or anything like that. But if you rattle his feathers, he's going to take up for himself, and I like that. That's what I like in a basketball player. Play hard, you play aggressive, but you don't take any stuff off anybody.
And you must feel like it's wide open this year, right? Like in the strike season.
It is, but you got to look at it in the East. There's some good teams. I mean, Orlando's got a few problems right now. Atlanta's always got a solid team, but you got Chicago and you got Miami. They're good, and for us to beat them, we're going to have to play our best. And and if they have injuries, you never know what's going to happen. But I like my team. I like my players. This is really the first year. I've always liked a lot of my players. Sometimes you have little problems with certain ones.
Yeah.
But I actually enjoy going down there in the locker room now. I'm not in there a lot.
Yeah.
I don't get real close to my players because, you have to trade them or do it. But I really enjoy them. They're good kids. And they work. These kids work. And they want to get better. So that's been not a pleasant surprise, but a great feeling to me to be a part of this.
So if you do add one person, it would have to be somebody that fit in with what you've built with these guys.
Right, you can't bring certain guys.
Can't bring a knucklehead in.
Exactly.
Larry Bird, good luck. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
me. Subscribe. You won't regret it. Actually, maybe you will. Then you'll unsubscribe. No biggie. Click subscribe. You look hot today.